Welcome to the best gambling show on the internet. This is the home of the money pick. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Week 9 player props to bet. And man, I feel like we've been pretty good on them. We've seen the last 3 weeks. Vegas is catching up. I believe we have some really good ones here. Let's get to it. First prop, we got Sam Laporta over 40.5 receiving yards against the Packers. Listen, man, no Jameson Williams. And that worries me if I'm a Lions fan or Lions better. But one thing that makes me feel calm is Sam Laporta. We've yet to see him have a dominant game this year. I feel like he's been better in his rookie year, but I think we see him go off this game. I think Green Bay is vulnerable. We know that Green Bay secondary is good, especially the safety positions, but I don't think they deal with tight ends all that well. And I guess when we talk about game flow with this prop, I think Green Bay is pretty good against the run game. I think Goff's going to have to air it out. And if they take away Amon-Ra, you got Patrick, but who else is going to step up? I'm going Laporta. Khalif Raymond will step up on the special teams. Next prop, we got Nick Chubb over 53.5 rushing yards. Listen, I like this. I felt like we saw him get going against the Ravens last week, but more importantly, it's the players around him. That offensive line is finally getting healthy. And this Chargers front seven isn't the greatest matchup. We know they're physical. We know Derwin James will come up from safety and get in the box. But with this Browns offensive line healthy, it's a complete seat change. And speaking of health, listen, Chubb hasn't been back a long time. I feel like last week against the Ravens, we finally saw the hit burst, the cuts. We saw the quickness that Chubb has. We know he has the power, and he's going to use it in this game. But I'm really liking the quickness. I'm really liking the Browns offense in this game. And then game flow wise, you look at Jameis Winston, his ability to air it out against the Ravens will make this Chargers defense a little bit cautious. They're not going to get up and rally around the run like they've done previous games, like against the Steelers, like against the Arizona Cardinals. Give me Nick Chubb over 53.5 rushing yards. Next prop, we got Kenneth Walker over under 64.5 rush yards. I'm going over. This is a little bit high. I don't like going above 62.5 rush yards when we analyze a prop. But, man, I think this Rams linebacking core is one of the worst in football. We know this defensive line is young and they're getting better every single play. But I do think you can run it on the Rams. And I think the Seahawks need run-pass balance because, listen, I know the Seahawks offensive line struggles, but when you throw it 40 to 45 times, your offensive line doesn't have much chance and much angle to pass block. I think we see Kenneth Walker have a big game, divisional matchup, smash mouth football. Seahawks need to go to it, man. I'm going over the 64.5. Next prop. This is different. I'm going Ravens team total over under 27.5. I'm going to go over. Listen, man, the Ravens left so many points on the board against the Browns, and credit to the Browns for pulling out that game. We called it in the upset video. But with that being said, there was 4 or 5 passes wide open down the field that Ravens wide receivers dropped. And I know this Denver story's been cute. I know it's been beautiful. Sean Payton's been absolutely excellent. But I just don't think this Denver offense can hurt the Ravens defense. They're going to throw it a little bit because the Ravens secondary can't stop anyone. But I think there'll be more than a few 3-and-outs for the Broncos. And then it's just Lamar running wild. Ravens getting to the 30s here. I love the over 27.5. Next prop, we got the New York Giants over under 19.5. I'm going under. I don't think they passed 17 points against the Commanders' defense. And we can talk about Daniel Jones. We can talk about his futility. We can talk about Andrew Thomas being injured and this offensive line's completely unraveling before our very eyes. But I think the Commanders' defense is one of those defense that's trending up at the right time. And they're so quick off the edge. You look at a player like Frankie Louvu. You look at a player like Fowler. They are winning battles and no one's really talking about it. And you have the Commanders' offense. We know they're not going to have a lot of 3-and-outs. We know they're not going to have stupid turnovers. So I don't think the Giants are going to get many breaks in this game and many breaks on offense. I'm going under the 19.5, or I could just say Daniel Jones. Next prop, we got Jalen Hurts over under 26.5 pass attempts. I'm going under. I think one thing we've seen about the Eagles the last 3 weeks, they've accepted what they are. They're a smash mouth football team with 2 elite wide receivers, and that's great. Like, you got Goddard at tight end. We know this offense is stacked, and I get the temptation to want to throw the ball. But you have Saquon Barkley, and he might be the best player of them all, and you have an offensive line that's better going forward than they are going back. So I think this Eagles team, this is more about just them changing their identity. They're becoming more physical. They're going to run the ball. And I wonder if the Jags can keep this game close. I do wonder about that. And I do think we've seen the Eagles rededicate themselves to the run. That's the main hypothesis behind this. Like, I think we see Hurts throw it 23, 24 times in this game, but 26.5, I'm going under. Next prop, we got Alexander Mattison from the Raiders. Over under 54.5. I'm going over. I think you can run it against this Bengals defense. I mean, you certainly can throw it. They were fooling people before that Eagles game because you get against Daniel Jones, you get against bad offenses, and you can cover your blemishes. But I think the Raiders are a team that's going to be dedicated to the run game. And I think Mattison gets 17 to 18 touches. And I think he has more than a great chance to go over here. Next prop, we got Courtland Sutton. Over under 57.5 receiving yards. I'm going over. Game flow. Firstly, when you look at these Broncos receivers, who the hell is Bo Nix going to throw to besides him? Maybe some of the tight ends, they're pretty decent, but the rest of the wide receivers are absolutely no names and they make no plays. Bo Nix isn't one to read the field, go to his third or fourth option. We know that. He will force the ball to Courtland Sutton. And if there's ever a secondary you want to attack, it is this Ravens secondary. They're banged up. They can't cover anyone. The pass rush isn't as great as it used to be. And then we got to circle back to game flow. I think the Ravens get into the 30s here. So if the Broncos want to keep up, they're going to have to get more explosive. They're going to have to sling this thing. Also, I love this Ravens defense against the run. I think they're top 5 in the league against the run game. Maybe that's because everyone's passing, but when I watch this Ravens defense, I really like their run fits, but the pass defense is an issue. I'm going over the 57.5. I know Bo Nix pass yards is the big play here, but I feel more comfortable with Courtland Sutton over 57.5. Last one, we got Zay Flowers over under 51.5. I'm going over. I've been a big Zay Flowers guy. I mean, his props stay low, not because of his talent level, not because he's not a top 12, top 13 receiver in this league. It's because this Ravens offense and Monken, sometimes they use him in just confounding ways and they don't use him enough. I get the matchup. Do we think Pat Surtain's going to be shadowing him? I mean, it is a possibility, but there's also other targets that you need to worry about on the Ravens, and you have to worry about the run game. But I think Zay Flowers goes off in this game, and I also think getting Deontay Johnson on the other side might occupy Pat Surtain? That's the big question here. I know it's risky, but give me Zay Flowers, because when you can get an elite receiver at 51.5, that's how we started off the prop video. You can go back to the old thumbnail. We started off hammering Zay Flowers, and his yardage total seems to stay in the 50s. Also, if you wanted plus money with him, maybe an anytime touchdown. He is due for a touchdown. I can see that happening. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. The best gambling show on the internet. Prop Bets Week 9. Let's get this money.